Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Glue Guys podcast, episode 11 today. Chad, why don't you tell the people how you're doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Episode 11. Probably gonna go with the Kyrie Irving episode. I don't know. He's wearing. Is he? I think he's wearing 11 right now with the Mavs, and then
The name our episode.
he also wore it in Brooklyn. Yeah, a couple of that's two. That's a good duo. Those two really go together. I feel like career wise.
And then, of course, Chad on the Yankees episode.
It was my nickname on the Yankees, so I didn't want to. I was going to bury the lead. I didn't mean to bury the lead on that one, but yeah, let's be honest, three great and polarizing athletes. So I don't know, something in common
Yeah, when Chad threw at Saudi's head in Northampton Little League, that was a rough day.
Nah, thankfully we were teammates, so I didn't have to. I didn't have to go against him. That would have been a tough at bat for me.
Yeah. So my weekend has been going fantastic. Texas played well. Arsenal played really well yesterday. And then, so the only thing really saving it is that the Cowboys are on a bye this week. So I don't have to, I don't have to think about that. Somehow, some way, the Cowboys are 3-3. By the way, I really don't know how. And the only thing that's really truly pissed me off about the Cowboys now is that they're going to find a way to go 9-8 and make the playoffs. So and then lose by 33. So that's going to be tons and tons of fun. Today, we kind of have lined up. We're going to talk about some NBA predictions because the season starts this week.
Tuesday.
Which is kind of crazy because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it all happened at once this year. Like, I kind of didn't hear anything about the NBA for like months. And then it was like, oh, yeah, by the way, Bronny went 0 for 7 today in preseason. And there's an actual regular season game next week. I was like,
well, it was funny because it was that weird thing where basically from the middle of July, after all the free agents and stuff had signed, till like kind of 2 weeks before the season started, no big noise happened, and then the Cat Julius Randle trade is like a couple days before the season starts, and then all of a sudden it's training camp, and then it's media.
ooh,
People are saying stupid stuff, and now the season's here.
I got it. Adam Silver called all the GMs. He was like, hey, we need something to like let everyone know the season's about to start because no one cares about the NBA regular season. So some trade with a big name has to be done.
You're telling me that big news drop that was getting people excited for the start of the season wasn't talk that I read today that the Bucks would be interested in re-signing Thanasis, even though he's out for the season because he's a good locker room guy, which was a real report that I.
Well, like, you know, people give Bronny crap, but like y'all saying that like there aren't 11, like 15 men on a team that don't play.
I'll give this. I tell you, I've always been a slight Thanasis defender, only because when he first came into the NBA, he got drafted the year after Giannis, and at the end of Giannis's rookie year, no one in the NBA was like, shoot, yo, this dude Giannis, we got to line up to make sure we can get him in 5 years. So let's draft his brother.
Well, I'm actually glad you said that because that kind of when people start doing comparisons, it always makes me laugh because it's like, oh shoot, look at what they're doing with the Nasas. Look at what they're doing. It's like,
it's just not the same thing.
Yeah, it's just not. People like not all nepotism is created equal. Like even Isaiah Mobley being drafted by the Cavs, like it was like, well, he was already a legitimate draft prospect, and then the Cavs themselves in the second round were like, well, he's already going to get drafted around this time. We'll pick him because we really like his brother. It wasn't like, yeah, Isaiah Mobley has no chance of getting to the NBA, and then we picked him. Of course, and of course, Evan Mobley has nowhere near the pull of a guy like a Giannis or a LeBron.
I tell you the funny part. I remember watching them at USC that one year. If you just like based it off of some of the games, you would be like, which one of these guys is the one who's going top 3?
No joke. Because I knew Mobley was supposed to go, and I saw Isaiah like making plays, and I was like, oh yeah, this dude looks pretty good. I was watching the tournament. I was like, yeah, this dude Isaiah looks pretty good. And then it was like, yeah, older brother of Evan Mobley, who's projected to be a top 5 pick this year, is like,
yeah, I know. Like,
and again, it was based off of 5 minutes of game time, but it was just like there was at least some sort of floor where it was like, all right, this guy's definitely at least going to get drafted.
Yeah, so like that's a great That's a great headline. All nepotism is not equal.
All nepotism is definitely not equal. I mean, look at what's his face? Whatever. I don't
Dale
know.
Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah. So today we're going to go through some NBA predictions. All right, it's going to be our main topic. If we have time, then we're going to get into our QB stock game update. I want to make sure that we make time because I want to, highlight a couple things with how the game's gone so far. But starting off, let's just get the very cliched things out of the way first. All right, as far as our NBA predictions, and let's say, and also the thing that, of course, is going to make us look the dumbest in 6 months, which is always the best part of any podcast. In NBA MVP. All right. Now we kind of had a discussion last week where it was like, what even is or last week or 2 weeks ago, where it's like, what even is the MVP?
Yep.
And still haven't really reached a consensus because it's just become more narrative driven. Rather than like recognition of any given thing. It's not who's the best player in the league, and it's really not even who's had the best season. It's like who had a really, really great season, who hasn't won it too many times recently, who maybe new and hot on the scene, who we like, whose team has won X amount of games, who we can build a cool narrative around.
Yeah, no, it's you go through a long checklist and people are like, oh, eye roll, Ethan doing his sarcasm thing. But no, it's actually real because the NBA, you got to think about who's the people who vote on the MVP. Mostly writers, journalists, people like that. And
the people that I'm scared of seeing at the money machine at night.
The Ryan Russillo theory about writers love stories. Right, so you go back and you look at other years. Like you go back. That's why, kind of redoing the MVP like historically, unless you were like really like alive watching games like night in night out that season, is dangerous to do because you go back and look at the numbers and it's like, well, shoot, if we're just giving the MVP out based on numbers, Luka and Doncic would have shared it combined for like the last 8 years. But like that's just not. Like you said, you factor in all those other things that kind of go into it. The team part of it. Are we already over you as a player? How much playoff failure have you already had in your career? Which I think was like one of the weird reasons why Harden never really or won the one that he did, but it was actually kind of later on, as opposed to when he was like on his actual ascension. So all that stuff goes into it, and you're great to bring up those points.
Yeah. So I kind of was looking at, again, factoring in all those points and saying, who do I think at least are my favorites are? And I really can only come to a conclusion of two people.
Wow.
And those two people are
Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell.
Okay. So we're just going to pretend that Imani Bates isn't on the team. All right. We're going to pretend that Imani Bates wasn't on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he was 16 or whatever it was. My fault. No, but those two people are SGA and Luka for me. Because you look at the guys that are MVP caliber, and each of them kind of have a defect as far as MVP goes. Not in their game, not in what they're going to do, but just as far as, again, those kind of criteria that I laid out. And it's like Jokic would have to average like 37, 53 rebounds and shoot 90% from the field. Yeah. Not those numbers, but he would legitimately need to put up like 32, 13, and have like the greatest field goal percentage season of all time.
It honestly have to be a 30-point triple-double, and they're the 1 seed in the West.
Correct. Like he'd have to do something outrageous because of voter fatigue.
3 out of the last 4, he's won it.
Yeah. Giannis, I don't think his team is good enough to really warrant it being like, well, he's the best player on one of the best teams and he's had a great season. That could end up going the opposite if his team is that bad and then he's putting up great numbers. Then it could be like, this team would be the freaking 11 seed if it wasn't for Giannis. But I still am kind of just disqualifying him from that. Steph and LeBron's teams aren't good enough and they're not going to be able to get it for 6 months in a row. Same with KD. And then you look at the younger generation of guys. Jason Tatum, I think his team is too good, actually. So it's like night to night. You could kind of have like
Yeah.
Porzingis 30-point night, and then you go, oh, Jaylen Brown carried us for 2 weeks, and
Similar
then
conversation to, when they won the finals, and then it's like
mm-hmm.
normally the rule is the best guy is just automatically top whatever, top three, top five. But
Right.
with him, there was like that. Well, they did have, another All Star, and then two other guys who made Team USA also, which I think is the stupidest measurement of people. Only because one year there were two Kings, it was Rudy Gay and Boogie, and then the Kings were like, oh yeah, like
But to be fair, this actually is a real Team USA team. That's not 14 players opted out, and then everyone else left over kind of made it.
I think that was the World Games anyway. So as we know, you don't send the
Dream team to the World Games, yeah. Uh, so yeah, I mean, you just go down the roster. Like Drew Holiday was like, I mean, he's already won a time. I mean, we the Celtics roster. I need to go through it, but I mean, I guess I would throw Anthony Edwards' name in there too with SGA and Luka. I would say those are the three where they'd have the combination of their team's good enough, they're going to put up great numbers, and they're young and exciting, and they haven't won MVPs yet. None of those guys have, and so like the media is going to look to give them reasons to win it. And so I think those three are kind of the short list of guys. Is there anyone that you can really see competing for the MVP? We know since Joel Embiid's going to win like 57 games, they're going to find a way to be like, oh man, if he wouldn't have gotten hurt in December, I'm telling you what, he would have won it. So not the would have won it MVP, but like the actual consideration when like April, May time comes around.
No, I got to be honest, just real quickly on Embiid. I actually feel like we talked about the narrative and like the media side of it. I feel like Embiid is like closer to the other side of that spectrum. Like he's more on that annoying. Like when he came out with the quote about "I think I'm done." I don't know if it was him who said it or someone in the front office, but when they were like, "He's done playing back to backs for the rest of his career."
I did see that.
One, if you just saying that isn't like saying that out loud is like, why would you like? What is the benefit of saying that? I have no idea.
So you can catch Milwaukee out. It's like, man, we got a back-to-back. The second game's in Milwaukee. They don't think he's playing. They're not scheming for him. Yeah. We got win number 18 tonight.
It's like when you wait to announce who the starter is. If you're the Steelers, it's like, whoever they're going. I think they're playing the Jets this week, and it's like, shit, we got to prepare for Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Damn it. The D coordinator's not getting any sleep this week, Some shit like that.
Hey, Russell Wilson's hard to prepare for.
Russell Wilson? Because there's just not a lot of tape on him? Or
there's no tape.
Yeah, there's no tape of him throwing the ball 5 or more yards down the field in the last year. That is 100% confirmed. But to go back to the MVP thing, I think the 3 candidates that you had are spot on. I think those are kind of the 3 guys that are up next in the queue. SGA, was second last year. OKC was the 1 seed. They're kind of coming in as that favorite, which I do want to talk about them for a bit at some point. Luka's weird, man, because I swear he's had like 4 straight years of him coming in as the MVP favorite. You know what I mean?
And then, the crazy thing is he always matches what people are like, well, if he puts up these numbers, then he's definitely going to win it. And then he either gets them or exceeds them. And it's like, nah. Yeah. So, last year he was 34, 9, and 10. And then people were just like, nah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's crazy. It's more of a testament to him that he's been the MVP favorite this much and not won it yet. Because as we went over a couple episodes ago, he's been in the league 6 years, first team All NBA 5 straight. That
stupid.
Just saying that sentence out loud is like, huh? Like, who are we talking?
It's ridiculous.
So he's definitely in the queue. Talked about and plus also I think them making the finals last year that gave him some momentum. SGA really his first real run with OKC last year, and that I tell you that Dallas series, like the shot making in that series is something I'm still thinking about. And then Ant, he second team All NBA last year, kind of burst onto the scene, took Minnesota to I think they were the number 2 seed in the playoffs. Obviously knocks off Denver, make the West Finals. Interesting from us that kind of the top 3 candidates we're talking about are all Western Conference players, right?
Well, the East is kind of ass, so.
More, yeah, and I mean, also, I think when you look at the East, there's more. The guys are more known commodities, right? Giannis is more of a known commodity who's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
he's had you win like you talked about, you win the MVPs on the ascension. He's already like kind of plateaued at what he is as a player, which is a hell of a player, but it's just
Say
it's
not
not
a knock, saying that
yeah,
he's not getting better. It's just he is
it's
what
not
he
as
is.
exciting to watch him be consistent as it is to watch someone get better.
Mm-hmm.
So Embiid, we talk kind of poke fun about. We kind of know what he is though as a player. Um, and who's the third team I was thinking of?
SGA.
No, Eastern Conference. Oh, and then Tatum. Tatum, you kind of, I feel like he's kind of weird in that Luka category. Where obviously not as good of a player, but because he's been on the scene really since like the beginning of his career,
Mm-hmm.
playing in big games, we're kind of
Used
know
to
what
it.
he is. Yeah, used to it, know what he is. So I don't know if he's going to get that love. Couple of guys though from the East that I did want to just throw in just for the hell of it, just because you're going to have to make a ballot at some point. Paolo, I don't know what it is. I've been big on the Paolo thing this off season, like. And it goes back to that Cleveland series. Like that's what it all goes back to for me. Seriously, is that Cleveland?
Not gonna lie, it's kind of crazy though that you're building a whole potential MVP case off of a first round exit.
Look, I mean, I know it reminds me of the year Cleveland played the Pistons, and everyone was like, Stanley Johnson, he's the 3-and-D wing that you're going to need in the future.
Yeah.
Like, you mean the guy who's been out of the league for the last 2 years? So that's kind of scary, and I agree with you. But for Paolo, I think that series was more of a culmination of what he did all year, more so than just an aberration of
flash in the pan. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So him, and then also I think Jalen Brunson could have a chance. He's in that group of like people just love Jalen Brunson. I think that series against the Sixers last year, and then like they had the Knicks had what I call the perfect playoff exit, which is you lose to a team that you know you're better than, but you have guys hurt.
We're hurt, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, and look, they were legitimately hurt, so it's not like I'm not doing the LeBron wearing the wrap on his hand after losing the Golden State.
Just for the record, just for the listeners, okay, Chad has admitted that in the past he has used the LeBron played with a broken hand argument.
I'm telling you, anyone that knows me, you'd be like, what? Like, if you just knew me for a while, you'd be like, I really don't know what this guy's feelings on LeBron. Because it's like, and look, I've been pro him kind of his whole Lakers run, really even that last Cleveland year. I started to truly appreciate it, but you got to be fair at the same point.
Chad's LeBron takes are like the exact same as my Ronaldo takes. It's like I'll shit on him, and then like someone will like take it to the next level. I'm like, okay, pause. Let's calm down. It's like, oh yeah, Ronaldo isn't this, and someone's like, yeah, I don't even know if Ronaldo's top 5 player of all time. It's like, okay, let's rewind a little bit.
Or when someone does our favorite, which I know is the one that'll set you off, he's not even the best Ronaldo of all time, and it's like, all right, time out.
Yeah, let's go with the guy that played like 200 career games. That was my favorite. He made me smile though when I was watching the game, so that's actually more important.
We'll go with the guy who's been outscored in the Champions League by Theo Walcott over the competition's all-time leading scorer.
I will say though, to go on Ronaldo Nazario's like CV that Ronaldo and Messi will never have is he did it in Eredivisie. So I mean, fuck. I don't really know what else you can say. He did it in the Eredivisie.
He did. Now, part of me, I tell you, when Ronaldo went to Saudi, it was kind of funny because I was like, man, I wish he would have just gone to like one of these shitty European leagues and scored like 40 and like set the goal scoring record in like 4 years.
Played for Celtic.
Yeah. Or even like, hey, I'm gonna go to Ajax and I'm gonna break their goal scoring career record in 2 years.
Hey, by the way, Inter Miami won the Supporters Shield the other day for the most regular season game.
Qualified for the FIFA or the Club World Cup next year.
And also, set the record for the most points in an MLS season. So that's kind of no big deal for my GOAT. I think Messi scored a hat trick in the last game too.
Yeah, tell me 3 guys he was playing against, and I got you.
New England Revolution.
Taylor Twellman.
I would say, damn, I'm looking at the lineup and I still don't know any of these dudes.
It's like the Portland Trailblazers starting lineup post All-Star break every year.
That's always my. I was listening to Bill his
Yeah,
over under pod. Did you hear the number that you said? How many people played for the Memphis Grizzlies?
yeah, 33.
30.
I thought about it. I was like, that's literally 2 full teams and then some.
And then some.
Like that's borderline 3 full rosters.
Oh, how's that even possible?
That was horrible. I will tell you though, I think Memphis is going to be a lot better this year, and that actually kind of brings me to if we can switch off the MVP thing, just because it leads perfectly
Yeah.
to one of my storylines that I wanted to talk about is the 11th and 12th seeds in the West. Who are they going to be? And I know you're thinking, what the fuck is he talking about Memphis in the 11 or 12 seed? The West is crazy, man. The West is crazy. There are like 3 groups, really, I think. I think there's a top 5. There's like a middle 7. And then there's
The bottom feeders.
yeah, basement dwellers, the bottom 3. The bottom 3, I think, will be Portland, San Antonio, and the Jazz. I know San Antonio. We talked about a couple episodes, or the MVP episode. We talked about Wemby. How much better could he make the team? The thing is, like, you look at some of these other rosters; they're just not even close.
Yeah.
They have NBA players.
Like he could probably steal them 10 wins and still end up 34 and whatever it is.
Yeah, 34 and 40, or 48. I guess that would be.
Yeah.
Which would still be probably a bottom 3 record.
Correct. Fair.
So we've got them as like the bottom 3, and I actually think Utah might be the best of those 3 teams, just because the Utah thing has been so weird the past few years, because it's like, all right, we'll play hard as possible right up until the All-Star break. A few games after that, we'll trick people into thinking we're still going hard, and then we'll start tanking with 15 games left, just good enough to finish with the 4th worst record in the conference. It's like, what the fuck is that? Like, what is that?
Hey, well, it'll be interesting to see what they do this year because, you got to be in it to win it.
With Cooper Flag.
The Cooper Flag sweepstakes. He just went crazy against some D2 deaf and blind school in a preseason game for Duke. So I think he's him.
Do you think, knowing the demographic of the Utah Jazz fan, and then
It'd be like when they drafted Gordon Hayward.
Oh, yeah, Hayward. But I was going to say, do you think he could become the first player to get his number retired before he ever plays a game for the team?
If Kelly Olynyk didn't get his number retired by the Celtics fans
in Summer League,
yeah, then I don't know. Like, it's not possible.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, so that's going to be the bottom 3, and then you've got this top 5 group, I think, of the Thunder, the Timberwolves, the Suns, the Nuggets, and the Mavericks. I think those are going to be, like, I'm not saying they're dead set going to be the top 5 seeds no matter what, but I would find it very surprising if all 5 of those teams weren't locked playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Thunder, Timberwolves, and Suns, I just think are all, like, roster and talent-wise, I think are the 3 best teams in the West. I really like the moves Phoenix made on the margins, adding Morris, adding Tyus Jones to get that true point guard in there. Still never going to be a fan of the Beal fit in Phoenix, but, it is what it is, and I'm just going to sound like a hater. And then with the Nuggets and Mavericks, I just think Luka and Jokic are too good to not at least make the playoffs with a half-decent roster for each of them. So we've got that 5. Now this leads us with the group of 7, and you might need to break out a pen because this is a big group because we're going to not talk about all of them, but, well, maybe. We got Golden State, the Clippers, the Pelicans.
I want to call them the Cans, but
well, they got to win some games first. The Lakers, the Rockets,
because of Steven Adams.
Yeah, the Steven Adams-led Rockets, the Kings, and then the Grizzlies. And I think all of those teams are all kind of in the same
boat.
Yeah, like you can make a case for any of them being, all right, shoot, this team is going to be, like, I really liked what Golden State did in the offseason. Obviously, you get rid of Clay, let go of Clay, but you brought in DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson, Kaminga is a guy who I think could honestly be right up in line to take that next jump. Even right, he averaged like 17 a game for him in the second half of the season last year. I think he could be a legitimate 20-point scorer because they're going to need him to be. They just don't have any creation on ball besides Curry. Wiggins is not an initiating type of player. Draymond, if he even looks at the basket, I think they just throw points on the board for him at this point. And then Pajemski's not a scorer either, really, and that's their starting five. So like that's kind of scary. But I like the additions that they've made kind of on the margins. Clippers. We got to talk about the Clippers for a second. Because I need actually your opinion on this because they lose Paul George, right? Everyone, and it's the Kirk Cousins theory. As soon as we get into the offseason, there's a 25% overrated bump with each of these guys. They lose them, and it's like, oh, they don't have Paul George. Now they're going to be one of the worst teams in the West. Everyone hated Paul George for years and years on the Clippers. So what do you think? Do you feel like that's a big loss for them, or where do you see that kind of, leaving them, I guess, just as far as talent in, talent out?
I just think that there's just the way, like, night to night that the Clippers are going to be. I don't think that they're probably going to need that per se. It's weird because everyone's kind of at a weird point in their career on that team where it's like, you just look at the roster, like you got the super old dudes where it's like you got guys with like 10 plus years in the league. It's like Kawhi, who's never going to play, PJ Tucker, who's Jesus Christ. I mean, like, if he honestly had his hand in the dirt on Sunday, you wouldn't be like shocked. James Harden, who's maybe the most reliable of any of these guys, and then Nick Batum, who there's been jokes for like damn near a decade of how bad he is. Like, he hasn't been a legitimate part player on any team that he's been on, outside of people being like, this dude sucks. But then you also have like some more exciting guys where it's like, Bones Highland, where it's like maybe Terrence Mann or Amir Coffey or, God forbid, Mo Bamba might like take a step forward and be like, hey, James Harden just doesn't have it tonight. I'm going to score 20.
I tell you, I like Mann. I think Mann is really good. He's obviously had that iconic game against Utah a couple years ago in the playoffs where he hit I think he scored 37 in the closeout game against them. But I like between him and then Norman Powell, those might be like my two favorite random wing guys in the whole league. Norman Powell, like one day someone's gonna look up, like someone who's dead now, who's in the Hall of Fame, is gonna look up and like, shit, Norman Powell is a 19-point per game scorer the last 7 years, and I'm in the Hall of Fame, and this dude's not even a starter, or is barely like even a starter for a team. Like, what the hell is going on? So, you make a great point, and it's scary as hell to say that Harden is the most reliable Clipper right now, right? I mean, year 16, age 35-year-old James Harden is the most reliable Clipper.
Belly bouncing off of his knees as he's jogging down the court.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I know I'm gonna get killed for this one, but like, I'm half excited to watch it. Like, there's gonna be. I mean, Kawhi is not gonna play half the season, right? So this is basically gonna be Harden's team, and it's gonna be kind of the reinvention of the Rockets Harden, because if you look at the guys around him, that's like no one else is really a scoring ball initiation type of player, besides Harden. And I mean, like Bones Highland, I guess, but he's probably too much of a ball initiator, depending on the night, which is why they ended up getting him out of Denver so quickly. But outside of that, like, Harden's going to have to create all the plays for this team. And I'll be like, hey, if you're playing NBA fantasy, I don't think Harden's a bad pick at all in the first round. Like, he's going to be probably 25, 7, and 11 or something like that. They might win 35 games, but he's going to be 25, 7, and 11 probably, because they're going to need him to be. Like, he's just – I mean, like that – the roster – I go back and forth on it because the roster is perfect if you had a healthy Kawhi Leonard. But the thing is, you just know that's never going to be an option. Like, that's never going to be an option at all. So there's no point in even thinking. It's like saying, all right, we would be awesome if we had Bigfoot on our team. Like, okay, congrats. It's just not happening. So they're in that race. That's why I put them in that race for the 11-12. I could see it kind of going either way for them. So New Orleans, New Orleans just needs to make a Brandon Ingram trade. Like, they have too many guys that want the ball. I don't. I was excited with what I saw from Zion last year, but I mean, I'm not. He's in that. He's in that group kind of with Kawhi almost, where it's like, hey, if you play 70 games, great, but I'm not going to count on it.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that ticket to the bank. What do you think about the Lakers? Where do you think the Lakers are going to stack up in this group? Because I could see it going a bunch of different ways.
I think they are going to be in the play-in. I think they're going to be hosting a play-in game. I think that's what it is. I think that's because, again, it's hard for me to rely on a 40-year-old and Anthony Davis to be like, you know what, they're going to get us enough wins to get the 5 or 6 or like the 6 seed. Like you said, all these guys, if they're fighting for something, they're fighting for the 6 seed. Like the best of these guys are going to just barely not make the play-in. And it's like, it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, LeBron and AD. And I mean, there might be some weird times where, and your theory, again, going back to LeBron and Bronny, where it's like, you know, LeBron's not going to want to be like, this isn't the season that LeBron's going to want to be like, hey, Austin Reeves, just, you know, take over, man. I don't really feel like the regular season crap anymore. You take over. He's going to want to show, you know, this is how we do things in the league, Bronny. This is how we perform. This is how we bull. And it's just kind of like that. And that might not get them in trouble, but it might be like night to night. He's not going to have it, but he's going to try to have it. And that's just one L. And then Anthony Davis doesn't play for 2 weeks. And that's probably you're losing 3 games there and just weird stuff. And then also, as much as we hate to admit it and bring it up, I mean, JJ's a new coach. I mean, it's just not as easy. I see this now as a coach, and I know, and it's nowhere near at the NBA level, okay? But like, it's very, very easy when you're either on a team or when you're watching a team to be like, oh, they should be doing this and they should be doing that. And then when it's like you're actually have the keys in your hand, like when you have a podcast mic in front of you and you say, hey, the Lakers need to do this and the Clippers need to do this, then it actually is time to go do it. Either you see stuff in practice or you see subtle things when you watch them every single day all the time. It's like, well, I don't know, man. Like, let me just pick any name out. Like, I don't know, man. Like Max Christie, like he should be able to do this. Like, but then he doesn't. And it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like Max Christie is a good shooter. It's like, but he doesn't shoot well.
Yeah. No, that's a perfect name because you bring up kind of the Lakers' biggest. I don't know if it's their biggest flaw, but just something that's been a flaw for them. I feel like the entire LeBron AD era, which is their 3-point shooting.
Yeah,
you know, they just have never had that consistent floor spacing,
which is so strange because it seems to be all I ever hear about every offseason is about how they're looking for one shooter or 2 shooters.
I thought you were going to say it's weird because they have 2 white guys in the rotation, and we're still talking about we're not sure if they have enough shooting.
Shooting, yeah, what the hell.
But Reeves isn't really, you know, I mean, he only shoots like 3-4 threes a game, so it's not like he's going to necessarily be that. And he's more of an on-the-ball creating type of guy who I like, but he's just not going to provide consistent floor spacing. And then Connect, I mean, the Connect preseason stuff has been out of control. People, we talk about who's going to the Hall of Fame before playing a game. I think the Lakers.
I mean, I legitimately saw a TikTok last night that was like, see, man, everyone's trying to draft for potential, but then there's guys like Dalton Connect that's fallen to pick number 17 when he's NBA ready. It's like he's freaking playing against G Leaguers and guys that aren't even going to make the G League. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I know. That's why, like, the preseason, that's why I just made a commitment in a decision a couple years back that, like, all preseason sports I just will not watch anymore. Football, basketball. Hell, I mean, shit. The craziest thing is I'll watch some preseason soccer only to just learn about who younger guys are.
Young players, yeah.
Before. And the funny thing is I still think, like even in soccer friendlies, I still think they take it more serious than half of the NBA regular season. So that,
I mean, what's it called? Your favorite all time summer league player only ended up playing one full season in the NBA.
my favorite summer leaguer all time.
Yeah, Brandon Paul.
He was on the Spurs for a year.
Exactly, and that's the only NBA like minutes that he's gotten is literally. I mean, it's actually kind of like insane that he played 64 games one season and then never played again. Like I don't even know how that's possible.
I know. That's like the Killian Hayes thing where he was closing games for Detroit last year and now he's not on a team in the NBA. So,
At whatever age he is, like 22.
yeah, I was going to say he's like 23, by the way.
Yeah.
It was the 7th pick in the draft a handful of years ago. So.
Which is hilarious because that honestly is going on the Ringer's tombstone.
Well, KOC is not even there anymore, so I don't even know if he can. I don't even know if that can be in the Ringer's tombstone anymore. KOC might have to carry that one with him personally, sadly. In his little travel, it's just travel size.
Got it.
So then the last three teams that we kind of haven't talked about so far in this group: Rockets, Kings, Grizzlies. I'm the highest on the Grizzlies of that group. I think the Ja comeback here could be a serious thing. And Marcus Smart's back now too, which I'm not sitting here saying Marcus Smart is awesome, but you bring back a legitimate backcourt. You know how I feel about Bane. I love Bane. Jaren Jackson Jr. was like weirdly 10th in the NBA in usage last year. So like this dude's getting like mid-post ISO catches and like creating off the dribble. It's like, oh, I see why this team is 22 or why this team is 24 and 70.
That's honestly my favorite subplot of every season is when a when a team is built around one star and then he goes down. It's like, yep. I don't know, man. But again, it's like, shoot, Max Christie getting 12 shots a game now because LeBron's been out for a month. It's like, what the hell's going on?
That's an entire Brooklyn Nets season this year coming up. And the Wizards, too. Like, let me not leave them out.
Yeah, how does it feel? Like, the Wizards, I saw this just now. They have the 26th highest they're 26th in cap space in the entire NBA, which means that they're spending the fourth most money in the entire NBA, and they're going to finish 13th in the East.
Second worst record.
Yeah,
generous. I don't see how. I mean, look, you're going to play I got to play the Homer bit for like 1 second, half a second.
Yeah, what's Kuz going to do?
Well, the funny thing is, I told you I don't care about preseason, but Kuz has put up at least 7 or 8 air balls in preseason so far this year, including one on a free throw, which was just awful. So, and it's like, hey, that's our number one, that's our crunch time scorer right there. Which, I mean, to be fair, he has somehow put up 20 points each of the last 2 years with us, but. Yeah, Washington, let me just cut the bullshit. We're probably going to win somewhere between 11 and 25 games, depending on... No, we could win 25.
I'm saying 11. Like, 11's outrageous.
It's outrageous, but here's the thing. Here's the thing I'm looking at. If Sarr is just terrible, like, let's say Sarr is awful, then we really... Like don't and let's say Starr's awful and Brogdon's hurt almost the entire time he's with us, which is a legitimate possibility when you're talking about Brogdon. I mean, he's the only guy that makes Kawhi's medicals look good. But if you have both of those things happen, there's not any real NBA depth on this team, and Jonas is 100% going to be off the team by the All-Star break. So.
I don't know. It seems like when you look at every team, it's like, well, if you like look in your division, it's like, well, we're never going to beat the Magic. We're never going to beat the Heat. We're never going to beat the Hawks. We played those guys a whole bunch of times. And, you look in our conference, we're never going to beat the Celtics. There's always like once every, 3 weeks, it's just like, you know what, we're just going to go out and beat the Celtics in Boston just because it's the NBA and guys are taking a day off and whatever. Like you find a way to craft like 22 wins, even if you're a horrible team.
Not if you're that 14 Sixers team.
Well, that's what I mean. Like that was before really. That was like at the advent of people like taking back-to-backs off in 3 days and 3 games and 4 nights. And now you can just find a team where you're playing against the Celtics and it's like, So Tatum isn't playing. Brown's actually legitimately hurt, and Porzingis is hurt. And so I don't know. We just went into Boston and beat them.
Yeah, and even the lower, like, probably not Washington, but like the lower level teams still have really talented guys. Like,
Yeah.
you look at a team like Portland, who I think has a good chance of being the worst team in the West. They still have like Anthony Simons, and a Shaden Sharp, DeAndre Ayton, who I'm not super high on, but is
Played in the NBA Finals a couple years ago as a starter.
Serviceable starting NBA center. Jeremy Grant's been a 20-point scorer multiple years, and you're like, this is going to be the worst team in the West, possibly the worst team in the whole NBA. So, the bottom teams, maybe because a lot of them have been towards the bottom for a couple years in a row. You're talking about Portland, Washington. Charlotte's been at the bottom the entire existence of the franchise, so I don't know if they count. But Detroit, they've been there. San Antonio, the last handful.
Well, that's not true. LaMelo won Rookie of the Year over Anthony Edwards. So
I tell you, looking back on it, man, that it was deserved at the time. Like, because Anthony Edwards' rookie year, we talk about the guys who are just allowed to come down and shoot. Like, I remember the second half of his rookie year, he was third in the NBA in shot attempts. Before I think that was that was the post-COVID year, the year right after COVID. So that was like peak all time. Nobody gives a fuck NBA. Like the second half of that season probably could have set the record for lowest like viewership records in any year. And I think that was the first year I got league pass too. So that was great for me. I'm watching the Grizzlies wheel out their 35th guy of the year, and I'm like, could he make the Delaware Blue Coats G League roster?
the Blue Coats.
So I don't know about that one, but yeah. So what were we even talking about? I don't even know what we were talking about.
We just started talking about bottom feeder franchises and how doesn't matter.
Yeah, bottom feeder teams, they suck. Real quickly, though, to wrap up the West storyline thing. So who do you think of that group is going to be the two worst teams?
I guess I'd probably say – what'd you say?
I was going to say, I can give you the group again. If
No, I have it written down, actually. I actually did write it. I guess I'd probably – I'm just going to have to go Pelicans just because I don't think that Zion's going to play. Like, I'm not relying on him to play. And if I look like an idiot – in a couple of months because he's playing every game and they're the 5 seed in the West, sure, I'm fine with that. So I'd have to go Pellies, and then I'd have to go Rockets.
Really? Okay.
Rockets. Just because when I look at their roster, they sometimes as a you need one of two things. Normally in the regular season, or either just like really good guys who are just going to win games for you by themselves, or like really good, talented, hungry young guys. And I don't really think they have either. Like they're young guys like Cam Whitmore, Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr. It's like those aren't guys that I'm like excited. Like, yeah, those guys are going to win us games night to night. And then they're they're older guys like are Jeff Green, Steven Adams, Van Vliet, Dylan Brooks, good NBA players, but not guys where it's like, night to night we're just gonna throw the ball to Jeff Green and he's gonna get us anything.
Van Vliet is definitely in the top 5 worst guys who's making a max contract, and that's not even a slight on him. It's just like Houston knew they had to overpay to sign him in free agency a couple years back, so that's what they had to pay for him. He's a good player, but if you're talking about top crunch time guys in the league, he's absolutely towards the bottom. That's 100% right.
Yeah.
I don't like that Cam Whitmore disrespect, though. Cam Whitmore might win in 2 games this year. I love Cam Whitmore. So.
I will say I am excited to see what Jalen Green's going to be this year because, I mean, his first like year or two, or especially his second year, was just like kind of like outrageous with like this kind of shooting that he was putting up and just throwing shit at the rim and seeing what hits and stuff. But and his scoring numbers went down, but he became a much more refined shooter. I think this past year in his shot selection and his actual shot making. And so it'll be interesting to see again, even like him being a better basketball player might steal them 3 or 4 more wins. And so that could be interesting. I just don't really trust anyone in this team. There's no one in this team where it's like, well, that guy is going to show up every night. Like one of their starters or key pieces, like that guy's going to show up every night and have it. So even if no one else does, he does. Like there, because he still is young and still Jalen Green, there still are going to be nights where he's just like, you know what, screw it. I'm throwing up 25 shots tonight, and there's nothing that you can tell me. Şengün's going to get a pass over his shoulder and try and elbow it into the basket and stuff like that. It's just a lot of weird stuff, not a lot of reliability. I know I went on about the Rockets for a long time, but it's just I just don't like the regular season makeup. I mean, you can forget playoffs, but I don't like even the regular season makeup of that team too much.
Yeah, I think they're definitely a candidate for me as well in that group. I would probably have them and the Kings kind of there.
That was the other team I was thinking, yeah.
The Kings one isn't even so much like the theory that you just laid out is absolutely perfect about Houston, right? Because it's a lot of guys who are hungry, but they're hungry to like be the scorer creator of the team. You know, they're not
to win games.
yeah. The only guy I swear that's like a glue guy that knows he's a glue guy is Tari Eason.
Oh.
Like, he's the only, so maybe we can get him on an episode here in the future.
That'd be awesome.
He's the only one that really knows that he's a rotation, glue guy, dirty work type of player, and he plays that way, so I salute him. But most of the other guys, like you said, they're like, all right, you know, we're down 3, we should be running this ISO 3 for me. Like, you know,
or like this is my year where I get to step up and 100%. Be the guy.
There are easily 7 guys on the roster that have talked themselves into being most improved player of the league. Like easily 7 guys.
Reed Shepard's like stepping on. He's like, you know what? I think I could, get a Rookie of the Year vote.
Well, I'll tell you, I think he could get way more than a vote. Like I think he could be legitimately in the conversation, especially if they're like decent but not. Because the thing is, they have to be in that weird space where they're like still
trying a little bit, but they're not like good enough to where have their established guys being like, nah, we got to get this guy shots.
Well, that and also like not so good that there's like a microscope on them, and it's like, I don't know, Reed Shepard, he did have 2 turnovers in crunch time last night. And it's like, really? This is what
that's good. The under the radar guys where it's like no one watches. I mean, as much as I love him, again, Anthony Edwards falls into this category a little bit where it's like no one's watching Minnesota night in, night out. And so it's just kind of like you kind of look up and it's like, well, yeah, I haven't heard Anthony Edwards' name in 3 weeks, but I just saw he dunked on somebody. So he must be doing really, really good. Now I'm looking at his box scores. Yeah, he's been averaging 25 the past 3 weeks since I last saw him. So he's doing good.
Yeah, I will say that is true about some of the smaller market teams. But the weird thing about, and maybe not even weird, about Anthony Edwards is I'm pretty sure, and I'm looking it up right now, I'm pretty sure, yeah, I mean, what the fuck is it? Minnesota is top 10 in national TV games this year, but you still look at it, you're like, how do they have more, or how does Philly have more national TV games than them? How does the Warriors have more national TV games than them? The Lakers, how do those teams, when Minnesota's way more exciting than any of those, and it's, big market versus small market thing.
It's because Julius Randle.
Exactly. That is. So I got Kings and Rockets kind of in that 11-12 group as well. So anything else? I know we kind of went on that one for a bit, but we did kind of get a nice chance to jump around the entire league with that one. So do you want to kind of just roll into the title prediction basically, and then maybe we can bounce onto the stock price game for a minute?
Yeah, really quickly, I just wanted to get your opinion on who you think was going to win the Jerry West Award for this year.
I can't say I know what that award is given out to.
Okay, I thought it was the most prestigious of all the awards.
Is that the Clutch Player Award?
Yeah, the Clutch Player Award.
I mean, look, Steph won it last year on a team that didn't even make the playoffs, and the year before that, Fox won it on a team that lost in the first round. So
I like to think that I walked so that Steph Curry could run with that one.
Oh God, you got to explain the story. You got to explain the back.
So in my 6th grade basketball team, I won team MVP. We had an offensive MVP, defensive MVP, then a team MVP. I won the team MVP. And they also had candy bars associated with for each player. It's kind of like, if you ever heard of like paper plates before, most likely do whatever, stuff like that. Like a guy got a Carmelo bar, which I'd never heard of before, but it's like, yeah, you're Carmelo. And so I got a crunch bar because I was our crunch time player, the guy you throw the ball to in crunch time. So I won the crunch time award for our team. That went 0-10. So basically they were like, hey, you're our crunch time guy and you never came through. So thanks. That's basically what they said to me as a 12-year-old who probably hadn't played organized basketball since I was 7. I was like, you know what? I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I think Alex Harvin took part of that voting, so
didn't play up to my standards. So title winners. I wanted to just quickly go through about three things that normally you need to win a title. Okay, 1, top 5 guy. Okay, 2, be able to get stops, and 3, have multiple shot creators. Because you see this all the time. Where it's be able to get stops is a very, very underrated one, but one that Bill Simmons, whenever we talk about Bill, we're talking about Bill Simmons. He always keys in on. I think he keys on it a little bit too much, but it's like you have to be able to have the time when you're down 6 with 4 minutes left in a playoff game. It's like, shoot, if they get 10, if they get the ball 10 more times, they can't score more than 4 times. Right. So we're going to have to get 6 stops in the next 4 minutes. And it's a really, really hard to just be like, hey, we're going to go out there with, Harden. I know these guys aren't on the same team, but it's like we're going to go out there with Harden, LeBron, Cat, this guy, and we're just going to somehow find a way to get 6 stops. Yeah. It's like you're not. So you need those guys that are at least you need enough guys that are competent defensively and then enough guys that are good defensively to be able to get those crunch time stops. And they have to be a part of your crunch time lineup. It can't be like, well, our 13th man locks up. It's like, but then when we run the other way and have to actually score, he actually can't be out there.
The Ben Simmons corollary.
Correct. So, but then also having multiple shot creators. And this especially becomes huge later you get in the playoffs because in the first round, it's very easy to be like, hey, Anthony Edwards, go create shots for everybody. Hey, Luka, go create shots for everybody. Hey, SGA, go create shots for everybody. But as you get down to round 3, round 4, that's when it's like, when those guys kind of look at you and they're like, well, fuck, man, I've been creating shots for 12 straight weeks. I can't create shots for myself and everybody else for all these rounds. I've been fouled 87 times in the past. I've been hit by 280-pound guys at the rim for however long. I can't do this anymore. Like physically, I actually can't do this. And also the way they're scheming me up, I can't create shots anymore. Like they're double teaming me as soon as I come across half court, and now I'm throwing it to you. And it's not even for a pull up. It's like I'm throwing it to you to be the next ball creator or ball handler. So having multiple guys that can do that, and I think you see it historically where it's like the guys that's like, I mean, even the Mavs, when they got to the finals, it was like, all right, Luka, I don't have it tonight. Here you go. Kyrie, create for us tonight.
Nope. Well,
in the finals, yeah. But I'm saying like in the first 3 rounds, that's how they got through it, is they were just like, well, Luka, I can't create tonight. Obviously, I'm still going to get my points. I'm still going to get my numbers, but I can't like do it every possession. Kyrie, go create. All right? Stuff like that. So is there any big thing that you think is left out of that top 3?
No, I think that's perfect. And I do want to say the one thing is we're in this like 6-year run of not having that overwhelming favorite type of team.
Yes.
We were in before that, it was, Golden State. Then it was like LeBron, like whatever team he was on for like a decade. It was like, well, they're making the finals. And then, the Lakers going back to the early 2000s, obviously the Bulls before that. Like in NBA history, a lot of times it's like, all right, hey, here's a team. They're going to have a 5 to 6 year run. And, it's just a matter of who are they going to end up playing in the finals.
Yeah. If you go back through the last, 20 champions, if you just go name the best guy on the team, you think top 3 guy, like you're going top 5 guy. You're thinking Tatum, Jokic, Curry, Giannis, LeBron, Kawhi, Curry, LeBron, Curry, Tim Duncan, LeBron. I mean, the last one that's maybe even like close or debatable is like Dirk
Yeah.
in 2011, which he probably was, especially during the run.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it's like
he went to another level in that playoff specifically.
Correct. And then it's like Kobe. Again, then another weird one where it's like KG on the Celtics, where it's like he probably wasn't like one of the 5 best guys, but maybe one of the 5 guys you'd want in the playoffs the most.
For sure.
And then like the last,
more like the Celtics in 24 also, where it was a team thing also.
Yeah.
The one guy who was standing.
I mean, the last time that there was a team who clearly did not have a top 5 guy was maybe the most infamous title of the past, well, maybe in NBA history, is that 04 Pistons team, where it's like we just have this hard-nosed defensive team that scores enough in order for us to win playoff games 73-69. But remember, that's real basketball.
Right, exactly. Yeah, LeBron couldn't play in that era.
Hell no.
LeBron couldn't score in that era. But no, you hit the nail on the head perfectly with the 3 things, because I think the multiple ball handlers, shot creators is huge. Both of the teams I have, that's like one of the main reasons why. And also the stops, right? It's not, we talk about it. Scoring obviously is up, right? Scoring is up like it's been every year for the past, 5-10 years, really. So it's not about being able to hold somebody to 95 points a game. It's
just being able to match baskets.
Yeah, that, and like you said, is the timely stops, right? In the last 4 minutes, can we put 4 or 5 stops together, out of 10 to 12 possessions, something like that? Can we make sure we're securing our defensive rebounds, which is a problem a team like OKC had last year when they weren't able to get over the hump against Dallas. Can we finish out possessions and then still be mentally tough enough to execute on offense like that? Yeah. That I think is huge, and it's honestly really the 3 things. All 3 of those that you mentioned all check off the 2 teams that I have in the final, so I'm feeling pretty good about them. Maybe the defensive part I'm nervous about a little bit for one of my teams, but I like it. So do you want to start off with your pick then, or you want me to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. I have.
Can I guess what you have?
Yep. There's no chance you're going to.
I think you're going to go Celtics and OKC.
Nah, I feel like that's been the
hipster's choice.
Yeah, not even. Not.
But
even,
no, sorry. The hipster's choice, where it's like, I'm not going with the obvious ones, man. I'm going with the team that got the 1 seed last year.
Yeah, I'm going with both teams that were the 1 seed last year, and one of them is the team that won the title.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually not going with either one of those. Crazily enough, because I'm specifically going anti, and I'm not doing it because.
Well, we know what you are.
You know what I am?
Yeah, you're anti.
No, that's not even why I'm doing it. I think sometimes the team that just gets the smoke blown up them all off season, all summer long.
Fair.
That can be kind of a dangerous thing more so. And also the Celtics, like we talked about, we're in this search for the next dynasty. So every year it's like, all right, whatever team wins the title, they're automatically the title favorite again. Like Denver, it was like, oh, how are they not going to win it again? Milwaukee, it was like, oh my gosh, how are they? Golden State, when they won it this past time, it was like,
I don't know. I think people were kind of ready to be. Everyone kind of recognized I was flashing the pan, but yes, still applies.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people were like, oh man, why didn't Kuminga get better? And
True.
I remember what Wiggins had turned into in that playoff.
No. You're missing the key part of the whole playoff run that everyone was saying.
Draymond Green?
Nah, hell no. Oh shit, we got a new star in the NBA, up and comer, Jordan Poole.
Oh, Jordan Poole.
Like he was literally the young. Like if there was like a young player of the year, like not rookie of the year, but there was like rising star at the. If NBA GMs were to vote on a rising star before that next season, it probably would have been him.
100%. Well, as long as the vote was before the Draymond punch, before that was leaked.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a counter, but I couldn't get one.
But yeah, so my prediction, or yeah, my finals pick, I actually have the Bucks over the Timberwolves.
Really?
Yeah, I look. I think a lot of people, more people, will probably have issue with the Bucks on that one. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and explain that first. Straight up, I just like their 8-man rotation. I'm not saying I like it for 3 years, 5 years, anything like that. I'm saying this season right now, I like it. Lillard is going to have a point to prove. Like, we talk about that professional pride thing with LeBron. Like, he's going to be whatever the best version of him is because of Bronny. I think whatever Lillard has, like whatever the best version of Lillard you can get this season, I think you're going to get it with him. Um, Gary Trent, I felt like was a huge piece for them at two guard, right? Like I think he's a huge addition because he's a real spacer. He's a real spacer, 39% career, 6 attempts a game. Is a guy who can defend it also. I'm not sitting here saying he's a lockup guy, but he's a guy who can make it difficult for primary creators, which is something you're going to need because Lillard's not going to be guarding, a lot of primary ball handlers.
Mm-hmm.
Middleton, is still something you worry about, but if Dame's able to carry that offensive load, and then Trent, is able to take a step up defensively, I don't even know how much Middleton even matters, really. And then Giannis, who I still think is a top 3 player in the game. Lopez is getting older, but I like the 8-man rotation when you then look at DeLon Wright, Pat Connaughton, who's somehow going into his 10th season, and then Portis off the bench. Like when you add in that, I just their whole entire season or the whole entire next 4 months is going to be based on this. This is going to be the number one question on the board in Milwaukee every single day for the next 4 months. Who is our 9th man? Right there, whether it's developing one of the younger guys like AJ Green, Andre Jackson, if it's Torian Prince, who's been kind of up and down as like a back end rotation guy the last couple years, whether it's somehow finding a way to trade for a guy or something like that. Like, although they're really restricted with trades just because of everything they gave up for Dame, combined with what they'd given up previously for the holiday trade and all that stuff. So. And just cap space, they have absolutely none.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at that, how can they find a 9th guy, or is it maybe moving out one of the guys to find a better fitting piece? That could be possible too. So that's my case for the Bucks. Go ahead and destroy it real quick.
I don't hate it just because I love Giannis, and I really do think, especially when you get in the playoffs, people will try and make like an argument like, oh, the 1 through 15, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter in the playoffs. It does not matter at all. Like maybe if you have a horrible 9th man, then that can be, but that's like the lowest you have to go on a roster. It's not like
that's only a problem if one of your guys gets hurt and then someone else gets in foul trouble.
Correct. Like that isn't, and that's only like for like a game. It's right. It's not like a series long or a whole playoffs long thing. So I like the Bucks and I like Giannis, and also the part that again goes underrated is having the top 5 guy, having the guy that's like, well, Giannis, especially in a playoff series, is going to be like 35, 12, and 7.
And I think people have forgotten how good Giannis is in the playoff series because he's been hurt. He was hurt obviously all last playoffs against the Pacers, and then 2 years ago he played like 2 games against the Heat and then got hurt for the rest of that series.
Yeah,
that dude is just a force on both ends.
And even Dame, like obviously we know about his faults defensively, but like in an offensive sense, like he's not going to be. This is a very not clickbait, but very media-y thing to say, but like he's not going to be afraid when it's like. When they are down 10 with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, he's not going to be like, okay, just dribble the ball up and throw it to Giannis and blah, blah, blah. He's going to be like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to create shots and I'm going to make the right decision. Of course, I'm going to take over if it comes down to it. But if I don't need to take over, I'm not going to force it just so I can look cool or do whatever. I'm just going to do whatever we need to do to score. Again, he might be a sieve on the other end, but what offensive point guard is he really going to have to go against when it comes down to crunch time?
Yeah, I mean, in the East, you're probably most worried about a Jalen Brunson, probably. But then you can just, hide Lillard off on Josh Hart.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you're talking about Celtics, like It's not like Drew Holiday and White are going to be just like, oh, well, they killed us and they won the series for the Celtics. It's
Yeah,
not
they
going to
can
be
have good games, but I mean, them as like ball creator initiators isn't going to win them the series.
correct. Yeah. So I I agree, Timberwolves. I was trying to find a Nuggets case just because it's like
Just don't have enough depth.
they don't have enough depth, but then I just keep coming back to like the part where it's like for some reason like Jokic, it's just like impossible to beat him. And again, I know the whole international thing is like
Yeah.
we might not like it as much, but it's like, dude, he was out there with 4 creative players and himself, and he's
Well,
playing.
Bogdanovich was getting them up like that dude was a top 5
That's what I mean. But it's like because like Jokic, because there's 5 guys standing like around the paint defensively for the U.S. It's just like here, make this open 3. Here, make like Christian Brown could have games where it's like, yeah, he scored 21. It's like, how did he score 21? Oh yeah, he hit 7 wide open threes because his guy's collapsing down.
Yeah,
And
100% true.
and it's like, so I'm still not counting them out. Like they're not like out of the conversation in my head. If the bracket worked out perfectly as far as who I think the 2 best teams would be, I think it'd be Nugs, Timberwolves conference finals. But I think Timberwolves would get through it. And man, Timberwolves Celtics. I just don't think anyone in the East is really that good, to be honest. Like,
No, I mean, it's a fair point. They were. I mean, no one even took Boston past 5 games last year in the East.
yeah,
They were head and shoulder, and this was without Porzingis. Pretty much the whole playoffs. Which, he's in that Kawhi and Zion group we were talking about earlier. We're like, hey,
does he even play games?
Yeah, exactly. And he's he's already hurt right now, out at least through the end of the calendar year. So.
Yeah, so I would think those two. Are you making a champion pick out of that, or are you just given the finals matchup?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do Milwaukee. I think
Love that.
the another concern that I really just thought of that I hadn't thought about up to this point is just fuck. I'm betting on Doc Rivers to be a championship coach again, which is a tough sell for me. I'm not necessarily anti-Doc, but when you look at like I don't know 8 straight years of like, hey, you've had a top 5, you've had the formula that you just talked about that you need for a championship team, and you're going out in round.
I'm saying you're not even it's not even like you're making the finals and losing in 6. Like you're not even close.
Yeah, exactly. You're going out in the second round in 6. So I'm not super excited about Doc, but I think Giannis is just generationally good enough that this is like, something that like you win that first title and it puts you like on the map of that group. Like, you're hey, all right, we might have to have a Giannis conversation about really like a real Giannis conversation. I think this one is going to be all right, Giannis, here's the conversation. 2 titles, 2 MVPs, all this other stuff. So I don't know. And like I said, I think the rotation is just good enough that it can be above average what they need, or slightly above what they need in order to be the complementary pieces to a top 3 guy.
Yeah, my pick would also come out of the East, and it'd be the Celtics. Like I said, I think the health part goes underrated because if you're tearing through everyone in 5 games, then it's like it makes it a lot easier to go 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Like if you're sweeping the first round and then going to 5 in the second round, and even if you go to 6 in the third round against your Bucks or whoever, then it's like, I mean, shoot, we've played 15 playoff games. The other team's played 21 or 20 against much harder competition, and the only game that we dropped was game 4 away, and it's like
already up 3-0 and didn't give a shit.
That's what I'm saying, and I think that factors in because the fatigue part, Russillo's favorite point, the fatigue part does factor in because you definitely see Anthony Edwards in game 1 of the first round. You saw a complete difference between that and game 6 or game 5 of round 3. It's just completely different. Like you're not able to be like, you know what, dribble, spin, dunk on this dude at the rim. Yeah. In your 20th playoff game.
You look like a superhero in the Sun series, and then like all of a sudden against Dallas, he's tired.
Yeah.
Damn, and that's not even an indictment on him. It's just like, dude, the playoffs is hard. Like you said, it's hard to be the lead creator and be a two-way guy, which Edwards can be at times, even though he's not as consistent defensively.
Which is why it's easier to pick guys like Giannis or like Jokic, there are going to be times where he just catches it underneath and he has a good switch on him. And he can just turn around and throw it off the backboard into the rim, into the basket. And it's like that. He's going to get 6 points like that. He's going to get 3 assists by just standing in the middle of the paint, catching the ball. They collapse on him and they throw it. There's no effort, or there's like no energy being exerted on that. Like, whereas Anthony Edwards, as great as he is, he's to do his stuff, he's going to have to catch it, have a guy with the elbow in his back, and then dribble, round, boom, boom, and then create and maybe get hit on that creation, and that's hard.
I like that sweep through that you just.
That's what I'm saying.
Nice.
So I just think it's much harder for those smaller guys to do it if they don't have a really great team around them. Because Steph is really the only one. Steph and Dwayne Wade are like the last 2 guys that were like smaller. Again, as far as the NBA, I know 6'3", 6'4" isn't small, but smaller guys for NBA circles that can really do it. And it's like one had Shaq, one had KD, Draymond, and Clay. So I would have to bet on those bigger guys. I would like to bet on those bigger guys, but then also Boston's depth is just crazy, and how much easier their conference playoffs would be.
Right. Let's talk about Minnesota just for a minute before we wrap up, because I feel like we kind of danced around the rest of the West and then talked about the Bucks versus Celtics aspect of the East part, but we didn't really spend enough time on Minnesota. I think the Randall trade was just. Because we never
calling it the Randall trade is actually OD, but yeah.
Well, I mean,
he's like the 3rd biggest piece in that trade.
From the Minnesota standpoint, I guess. Yeah, you're right.
That's what I mean.
The Minnesota and Knicks trade. I think they added a lot of on-ball creation, like you talked about, as something that you need. You talked about it when saying, hey, these are what you need from a title team. And then also, Ant getting worn down at the end of the playoffs last year. Like, I think it can help in both of those aspects. Randall is not quite as quick with his ball initiation as I would like, especially for the playoffs. But he is still able to initiate plays, create for himself, and create for others, which is really underrated part of his game. And then DiVincenzo, look, obviously he's not going to be sitting here isoing guys to death, but he's like, Ant breaks down the first guy, swings it to someone who swings it to DiVincenzo, and it's like he doesn't just need to catch it and shoot. He can put the ball on the floor for a couple dribbles, find the next guy or create, get to the rim, all that stuff. So I really like that, where they've added those 2 things. If Rob Dillingham can give him anything, like as a rookie, then I think this could be super exciting, because he's another guy who has, in theory, that on-ball creation, some of that juice, right, that you need. And also, I just think it was just a smart pickup to get him by Minnesota. Like, the cap restrictions that you have. You're able to get a rookie guy on a cheap contract that you can kind of develop and have on your team for the next couple years. And you can grow his role as Conley continues to phase out of the rotation and out of the league.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the best part, and probably the only thing that I'm thinking about now that maybe you forgot to mention in kind of what you need to win a title, you need that traditional big, and then you need a small ball big, right? And Minnesota has both. They've got the traditional big in Gobert, obviously, with the big contract too. And then you've got the small lineup big with Naz Reid, who I think is just going to continue to explode this year, without the cap minutes being in the way either for him, although it's not like Randall's going to be coming off the bench or anything. So,
right.
Those things, I think, just make Minnesota super exciting. And don't rule out my guy, PJ Dozier, to be a good 10. I'd love him to 5, but I can't explain why.
PJ Dozier.
Man, I love that South Carolina Final Four run a couple years back.
Yeah. So hopefully we got some, good stuff for you guys. I know we were jumping around topics, but we just kind of want to give a general overview of how we were feeling about the NBA in the upcoming season. wanted to hop over to the QB stock game. Now, we did this just before the NFL season started. We each picked 4 quarterbacks where Chad generated a stock price for each of them, saying basically combining their QB from last season, their QBR, their wins, getting points added for wins and points taken away for losses. Now that we're kind of
before we get into that, can I just ask you a question? I don't even want to cut this or edit this. This is genuine on air. Do you feel like the win-loss record is weighted too much? Like, do I need to recreate just because like on
I would say yes. However, the way that quarterbacks are kind of discussed, that kind of goes down as a quarterback stat.
True.
Crazily, like no one talks about Ahmad Bradshaw's career win-loss total, but they definitely talk about Eli Manning's.
Ahmad Brad, that's a crazy pull in the game.
But like even like players that aren't considered elite quarterbacks, it's like, well, this guy's 13-13 in his career. It's like, I don't know. So I can see your point, but also like when the reason that Lamar won MVP last year is because they had 13 wins.
Yeah.
Like if they would have won 7 games and he put up literally the exact same numbers, he would not have won MVP. Simple as that.
That's perfect. That's a perfect point because it goes along with the Joe Burrow case where I saw on some PFF guys who do a great job with their work too, who were saying like, hey, if Joe Burrow, who the Bengals are 2-4, shout out Aaron, if they were 4-2, then Burrow would be at top of the MVP conversation right now.
Yeah,
but they're 2-4, so no one's talking about it at all. So
exactly. So going through our names. And when we say these names, it's just like it's more sad than anything else for us. Chad's team, and this is in order. This is in like okay. Can you answer me an honest question?
Depends on what game you're watching, but probably not.
Like who did Pep murder? Like who did Pep sacrifice? John Stone's in the 95th minute again. Are you kidding me?
Oh wow.
Anyway,
I'm telling you, I'm glad Wolves lost though, because that's just my Wolves going down theory is just awesome, right? Is looking awesome.
What about my Man City's full of dickheads theory? When's that theory going to kick in?
I don't think anyone is disagreeing with you on that one. It's just somehow they find a way to keep.
Now, if there are soccer gods, this hopefully is all part of the bigger plan of we're letting them think that they're having a good time, and then they're going to be in League Two here in a couple of years.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So in order of draft order, okay, Chad got Rodgers, Burrow, T. Law, and then Kyler. All right. Now, I'm not going to say their exact stock prices and what they are this year because it just gets into way too many numbers and it kind of gets confusing. But long story short is that they have 3 negative stock prices so far this year. Rodgers, Burrow, and T-Law, their stocks have dropped. T-Law's stock dropped significantly by about 45 points.
Second most of any quarterback.
Yeah, and Kyler Murray, funnily enough, is the only one with a positive stock price, which last year he was at 28.3. Now he's at 33. So his has gone up by about 4.7, which is, again, not great. But to be fair, the Rodgers and Burrow ones aren't huge drop-offs. Rodgers down by about 4 and Burrow down by about 14. And the important thing to remember is that especially for Burrow, like the turnaround could be pretty drastic with their win-loss record to where the QBR that they hold right now can still take them into a high stock price if they just continue to win games.
Yeah, that's why I kind of have to stay positive on the Burrow part of it.
Correct. The Burrow part and maybe even the Rodgers part with the Devontae Adams addition, which I don't know. I think people are overblowing, but it's still at least something.
Just real quick, I'm going to make a Devontae Adams prediction. I guarantee you that's just not going to be what – like every receiver hits a point where then it's like, oh man, Titans are trading for Julio Jones. Shit. Clear out the division. They're going to win it. And that's my all-time favorite one. But there are so many other ones that go along. I mean, AJ Green to the Cardinals and shit like that.
I just think
I just don't think it'll be a difference maker.
what's even worse, I think, than the banking on someone's value of 5 years ago trade is the getting the band back together trade.
Yeah, no, that's well. I mean, shit. If you look at the Jets roster, they've done it with like 10 fucking guys.
Did they not have Randall Cobb on their team last year, or am I going insane?
No, they did.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's
didn't even play.
yeah. Yeah, it's just like the whole getting the band back together. It's like, yeah, that's cute, but it's not 2018 anymore for either of you, for Rodgers or for Devontae Adams. So it's just like, relax. But Jesus, going on to my team.
Go ahead.
Bryce Young.
I'll give you credit. There wasn't much lower he could have gone. So you're
No, say the butt part.
he's the worst quarterback in the entire list, and he's been benched.
And he has gone down. Like, by the whole premise of me drafting him was that, like, literally this dude's stock price can't fall. Like, it's not possible. And he's found a way to make it fall only by 1.27. But mind you, it's currently at a 3.5. So it's almost literally rock bottom, but it was already almost rock bottom last year, and now it somehow has managed to fall even further. So yeah, he's 39th out of 39 qualified quarterbacks. But then,
by the way, qualified guys, I just did anyone that started a game this year besides Skylar Thompson, just because I just wasn't going to put him on there.
All right, so 39th out of 40. And then I have Herbert, who's very, very positive right now. Plus, he's up about 35 points right now. Jordan Love, who's down right now, but still not bad, dropped from about 70 points last year to 57 this year. And then the one that's currently giving me the crown, all right? My favorite quarterback in the league, Patrick Mahomes, man. He's up 180 points. Again, that's huge based off of record, based off of current win-loss, because they are currently 5-0. Just to show again how much the wins losses factor in. The number 2 quarterback is my guy Darnold, and then number 1 is C.J. Stroud. Yeah. So
those 3 guys, Stroud, Darnold, Mahomes combined, have 1 loss.
Correct. And so we're looking over here at guys that are also up there. I mean, again, since it's early in the season and because of the qualifier Chad laid out, which isn't a bad one, it's just you got to acknowledge it. Like Malik Willis is 5, who's had a good 2 games, funnily enough.
His QBR wasn't bad either.
No, his QBR, I think he has the highest one. Obviously, he's only had 2 starts, but still. Guys like Josh Allen are 6. So, like, below guys like Darnold and Stroud and Goff. So, the win-loss record does factor in a lot, but I still think it's pretty fair to have it in there that much because, again, it's considered a quarterback stat a lot of times. So, I don't really hate having it there. Just for funsies, the bottom 5 quarterbacks, which
I was going to do that too.
Which are the guys just under Chad's quarterback of T-Law. So these are the guys just below T-Law and above my boy Bryce Young. Those other 4 to round out the top 5 are Jacoby Brissett, Spencer Rattler, Will Levis, and then the guy that I predicted to have a bounce-back season.
Hey, I was right there with you.
Deshaun Watson, man. So basically my NFL predictions this year so far have boiled down to having the 2 bottom quarterbacks in the league, basically me having vouched for them in the preseason. So that's good. And then I was also, even to add on to that, I was pissed when Chad drafted T-Law because that was going to be my next pick. So it's been a rough year so far.
One thing about E, and you are one of the most confident people I think I've ever met, but your humility there, I think, was that was a great display. That was a great performance because you are kicking my ass right now, and yet somehow you made it seem like the wheels are falling off for you.
I just kind of feel that way.
Right now.
I feel that way about fantasy all the time too. Like I'll win the week I'm 5-1 in our fantasy league, by the way. Me and Chad's fantasy league. I'm 5-1, and I'm like sitting there looking at my bench at a guy that scored 20 over a guy, started a guy that got 6. And I'm just like, you idiot! How did you not start this guy? Like, you should have known that this guy was going to get targets and get points. And it's like, I don't know. I just, I want to be perfect, because again, when you're a guy that watches podcasts and listens to a lot of podcasts, you're like, how does this dude predict that Bryce Young is going to have a better year and Deshaun Watson is going to have a bounce back year? But until you have your opinions on record, like we do now, then it's really, really hard to. And when you have to have an opinion, that's the thing too. Is like if you're listening to a podcast, it's like, oh, Bryce Young's going to have a better year this year. It's kind of like, I don't know if I agree with that, but I don't know if I don't.
No one's tuning into the podcast that's saying, Bryce Young could be better, could be worse, not sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a whole bunch of fence sitters.
Yeah.
Because that's what I hear all the time when I talk to people. It's like, oh, so you don't think Bryce Young is good? And I'm like, well, no. It's like, do you think he's good? And it's like, well, I don't think he's bad. It's like, well, shit, man. Like, that's what you're going to do if you're an NFL GM. Be like, well, I don't know if Bryce Young's the guy, but I also don't think he's not the guy. Okay, so are we drafting a quarterback this year or not? Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
not to say that this is our tryout for B&G.
This is my tryout.
If anyone wants to hire us, I'm only a call away.
So, do you want to do the ad drop, the one ad, one drop? Or do you want to do, or maybe just an ad so that we still have to be punished for our bad draft picks?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do one ad drop. An
ad drop. So it's the ad drop period, all right? You got to make sure you add before you drop is what the college advisors always say, all right?
Yeah. You don't want to get stuck with not enough credits.
God, man. See, the more I'm looking at this,
if you don't want to, you don't have to.
I don't even know if I want to drop because it's like, even if I drop Bryce Young, like Bryce Young is actually the most risk averse of all of them because even if he loses,
the lowest he can drop is 4. Like the absolute lowest he can go.
That's what I mean. But like if I were to drop him, I could pick up a guy like even a Jalen Hurts. And then he could go and start losing and start playing like crap, and his thing will drop a crap ton.
Let's just say also for this ad drop period, this is kind of ad lib, so I do apologize. But the value now isn't going to be preseason to whatever they are the next time we explore this. It'll be, starting what their value is right now at week 7.
Yeah.
To what it is whenever the next time, maybe 5-6 weeks when we relook at.
So I probably shouldn't say this, but whatever. The only guy that really intrigues me is Stafford.
Yeah.
Because Stafford is at 4.
You have the same. I feel bad because me and you it seems like we got the same mindset on this thing, but somehow you're kicking my ass. So
it's like Stafford. So he's currently at 14. That's his stock price because they're 1-4. But his QBR is pretty decent. It's okay at 56.1. And it's like, even if they just start winning a couple games, like if they finish at 6-11, then that's going to make his price go way up from where it is right now.
Exactly. And 6-11 is still bad.
Yeah, but it's like, I can't find a guy that is worth dropping. Like, I think Herbert is going to, I think they're going to be around that, like just the plus side of 500. So I think his stock price is going to stay similar. I'm not going to drop Mahomes because that would just be dumb. And then Love is another one where it's like I could because he's currently at 57 and they're 2-2. And again, I could see them hovering right around 500. So as long as he continues to play decently, then he would probably stay around the same. So I think I'm going to hold for now.
Wow.
I think I'm going to hold.
Look at the confidence there.
I think I'm going to hold. Bryce Young is basically a non-factor on my team. He's literally basically 0. So it's just my other guys are kind of killing it for me right now. So right now my cumulative score from preseason to now is plus 201.8.
Damn.
Well, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's another guy who's playing this game whose cumulative score is negative 58.83. So I'm beating him by about 260.
He needs to be fired. Gosh, for me, I'm thinking.
Just add Stafford. You want to add Stafford? Add Stafford. Kick T-Law to the curb and add Stafford.
Well, see, this is my thing, though, and this is, well, never mind, but this is my thinking. T-Law is already low. Like,
he's already rock bottom.
Yeah, he's not.
He's your Bryce Young.
Yeah, I mean, literally, his stock price is 11 right now. So, like, there's really not much lower for him to go. And they're 1-5 as a team.
But there is negative for Rodgers to go or Kyler to go.
Right, exactly. So that's why I'm looking. I think I'm going to drop Rodgers. Because I can really see this Jets thing. I could see the wheels. I mean, they've already started to fall off. I could see them continuing to fall off in a real way. So, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and add Stafford. So, fuck it. You know what?
Man.
I believe in him. I believe in McVay. And I believe that their record can get slightly better than the 1-4 that he is right now as a starter this year.
So who are you dropping?
Dropping Rodgers. Rodgers is getting dropped. I'm locking in that minus 3.6 with him.
Dang.
Because I think it could get a lot scarier.
I think it could as well. But even him, he's only like hovering. He's at 25.3 right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, shoot. If he drops like another 10, 15 points, then I'm just all the way done completely.
Yeah.
I'm probably already done. So who knows? It's not like me making one change is gonna.
Well, I know Patrick Mahomes ain't going to finish 17-0, so that stock price is going to drop a lot. Well, if Roger Goodell has his way, he will. But
there you go.
But yeah, so now our new teams. Chad has Burrow, T-Law, Kyler, and Stafford, and I'm keeping Bryce Young, Herbert, Love, and Mahomes. Just very quickly, is there anything about this NFL season so far that just kind of has caught your eye? A team, a player, a phenomenon, the way the game's being played, how the playoff picture's shaping up, whatever. That's really caught your eye and been like, I just wasn't expecting this. It's not like a huge shock, but I just wasn't expecting this at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think Denver has a legitimate chance of being a playoff team. And I'll say this. I think the AFC West has a legit chance of getting
three teams. Yeah.
So I think the Chargers. I figured, we danced around it a little bit in the preseason. I felt like Harbaugh was going to be a good addition to the Chargers, both as a culture setter and just as a good coach. And he's been, pretty much as advertised so far. Peyton and the Broncos. I mean, look, the Broncos still had a decent record last year. It's a crazy.
Oh, Sean Payton. I thought you were talking about Peyton Manning. I was like, what year are we doing this freaking Week 7 review of?
Sean Payton as the head coach. They were still 8-9 last year, so I guess being 4-3 right now shouldn't be the most shocking thing of all time. But Bo Nix hasn't necessarily played great. I guess maybe the shocking thing for me would be the play of the rookie quarterbacks too.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels has been amazing in Washington, as much as it kills me to say it.
Yeah.
And I think Caleb Williams has really started to look good the past couple of games.
Yeah. Well, when you play against Carolina and whatever other college teams they've been playing the past couple of weeks.
Get anyone going in the right direction, but the Bears are 4-2.
Yeah,
you could legitimately have multiple rookie quarterbacks making the playoffs this year. So, which I think is not something that happens very often, if ever. So, that has been a pleasant surprise. Like you kind of alluded to at some point during this episode, the less said about Dallas, the better. So, we're just going to stay away from that one entirely. And then maybe the funniest thing of all time to me is like the Saints start off 2-0 and everyone's like, man, good playoff team. They're going to be a bitch to play. Now they've lost 5 straight, and there was reports coming out that there's a fire sale going on in New Orleans, and Alvin Kamara is on the block.
I did see the Alvin Kamara, yeah.
Which, as an Alvin Kamara fantasy holder, I'm crossing my fingers because, damn, it was tough to watch him run 7 times for 10 yards or 10 times for 7 yards in their last game.
Yeah, I own him in my other league too, and I thought there was like some sort of typo. Like he scored a majority of his points from receptions.
Yeah, and he's always been a receiving type back, but at the same time, like 7 rushing yards is pretty low.
No. I don't mean from receiving yards. I mean like his highest scoring category was the full point you get for receptions. Like not receiving yards, not rushing yards, not touchdowns. It was literal. His 5 receptions were like his entire.
Yeah. So are you saying I should change our league to add points per rushing attempt? I know that.
No, I think we need to pick. We need to do was it IDP?
Yeah, IDP.
Yeah, and
I was in an IDP league one year, and it was actually not horrible.
yeah. I agree. My point was kind of going to be about the young quarterbacks being able to actually be decent, but it kind of goes along with the video I saw the other day where it was like for so long the NFL was like, this is what the NFL is. If you don't fit into it, then I don't know what to. For quarterbacks especially, it's like if you don't fit into it, if you're not a pocket passer that can read defenses and do this and do that, I don't have any time for you. But now they're like, okay, I see your skill set. We're going to design an offense around it so that you can be successful. Like it was so weird because I even fell into this because you would watch college games, especially when I was huge on college, where it was like you would watch guys in college and be like, yeah, this dude's like a Heisman candidate. This dude's so good. Never going to be anything in the NFL though. Yeah. And you just kind of accepted it. Like guys,
First Leak, Troy Smith,
Tim Tebow, guy. I mean, even like probably the best player that was an example of this was like Mariota. It was like, yeah, Mariota is really, really good, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do anything in the NFL because he's not like the greatest. Like he was a decent thrower, but he's not the greatest thrower in the world. Like Denard Robinson is never even going to take a snap in the NFL because
even like Manziel and stuff.
Yeah,
like, I feel like in today's world, Manziel goes one.
That's what I mean. Like you go RPO heavy, you throw some option stuff in, you make it really simple on base downs as far as throwing. Like you're throwing screens, you're throwing designed like swing passes, things like that.
Yeah, I mean the completion percentage is out of control right now.
Yeah,
the number of like just scripted. Hey, here's basically an extension of the run game, but here's four passing yards for you.
Yeah,
all these quarterbacks is
like Jaden Daniels has like a 75% completion percentage or something crazy like that. And I'm not saying that, I'm not disparaging him by saying like, oh, it's only because he's checking the ball down, doing whatever. But it's like the offense is now made for the rookie quarterback rather than giving the rookie quarterback like a 9-inch thick playbook and be like, hey, learn all this. And you need to play as a 22-year-old, you need to be able to play like how Peyton Manning plays right now, or you can't play in the NFL. It's like, okay, thanks. Yeah, we're gonna take the Colts and Patriots offense and we're gonna install it. You either learn it or you don't. And if you don't, then Mike Glennon's gonna come in and run it. Okay, so
he's been around the league for a while.
And he knows how to do it. Like it's such a strange thing where it's literally the only sport in the world where it'd be like, you know, if you have a guy, maybe give a soccer example from my soccer guys. Like it's like, hey Neymar, you can't be a forward in the Premier League. It's like, well, why not? It's like, not strong enough. You don't play enough defense. You're not. You don't win balls in the air. You just can't play here. It's like, well, how come we don't just like play it into my feet and like create overloads and just let me go 1v1 with guys? It's like, nope. This is how we play. This is how we play in the Premier League. You can't. And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I give up.
Yeah. So got some QB stock game in today. Got some NBA, a lot of NBA in. If we're kind of going to get into the advent of some beginning of some seasons. NBA obviously starting up, NFL really kicking into gear, and teams actually taking shape rather than just having early predictions. It's going to be like legitimate. We can see what's going on.
I got to tell you, E, I'm borderline with the amount of college I've been watching the past couple weeks. I'm borderline a week or two away from being ready for a college football segment.
Hey, don't do that because I've been all in ever since. I mean, Texas has been good. They were freaking awful last night. But you know, I'm in, man. If you want to do just a quick little hidden thing on college football, I would definitely be down because I've actually been pretty entertained. You know, Indiana being 7-0, just absolutely destroyed Nebraska. Both military academies being 6-0. So yeah, I mean, I'd be down. If you guys want to hear anything specific, just gonna let you guys know right now. If you want to hear about the World Series, that content's not coming. I could say like one or two buzzwords about it, but other than that, it's kind of outside of my wheelhouse. I know who Juan Soto is, and I know that the Dodgers are good. So, I mean, if you want anything outside of that, I can't really give you anything.
Apparently, can't hit as soon as the playoffs start.
That's always fun. That's always the guys that I tend to like.
New A-Rod torch.
Chill. So I hope you guys enjoyed episode 11. Again, let us know any suggestions, any things you want us to talk about, how we can make the podcast better. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. We'll see you guys in episode 12, Tom Brady episode.